All right, today with us we have Joseph English, professor of environmental science at Harvard University. Just have a few questions for Joseph about climate change. Joey, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We'll just start off simple. Do you believe in climate change?
Yeah, of course I do. I don't know, it's kind of hard to go throughout college and having a normal education without hearing about climate change and its effects on our world.
Agreed. In your own personal opinion, how would you describe climate change?
Well, I've actually learned that climate change is a natural process that happens over thousands and thousands of years, but I've heard human activity has actually sped up the process of climate change with greenhouse gases and stuff like that.
Agreed. So, having said that, what aspects of climate change do you believe will present the biggest threat within our lifetime? Or, I guess in your own words, will help speed up or expedite that process the most?
What effects of climate change will...
So, for example, a lot of lead scientists in the field of environmental science who study climate change believe their carbon emissions are going to be a big issue with the glaciers. In the end, there's freshwater concerns, the effects of methane on the environment, the storage of carbon in the ocean or in the rainforest, which when the rainforest cut down, kind of for one of those issues, I guess I would be curious, which aspect of climate change in one of those ways do you think that our generation will face and will prevent the biggest threat in our lifetime?
Well, honestly, what I've heard mostly is sea level rise, because there are a lot of cities, coastal cities, and different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Charleston apparently is facing some threats from sea level rise. A bunch of European cities that are on the coast or on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've heard mostly. Apparently, that's going to start affecting us pretty soon.
So that would basically kind of tie in with like glaciers melting, basically.
Yeah.
So basically, the aspect of climate change would sort of be generally tied into global warming, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And
at least as far as my understanding of it goes.
I guess just in sort of like even vague terms, like why do you think that would be the biggest one that we'll face, or like the most paramount of danger to us in our lifetime?
Well, I've heard that there's certain civilizations that are already being impacted by sea level rise. I'm not exactly sure which ones off the top of my head, but I've heard like potentially Papua New Guinea, because they have a bunch of like native population that's not very like technologically advanced, and I've heard they're already being affected by it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some other places as well.
I mean, even Miami here in the U.S. is already having to spend hundreds of $millions on pumps to pump the water out of their streets that are already flooding. So I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. So what, in your opinion, like what aspect of climate change do you think could be fixed most easily? Like what if we were going to address something first, one of the many problems, what would you think would be a good start to attack first? It'd be the most easy to fix and make some headway into hopefully solving the problem at some point.
Well, I would say initially, like right now, we have the technology to fix all the emissions that we emit from year to year, and I think they're actually making some good progress with that, as far as like car emissions, factory emissions, stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how much or what part of climate change that affects.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's greenhouse gases and whatnot, and how they trap in heat. So I guess I would say that.
But yeah, and you're totally right. I mean, carbon emissions, like you said before, are a natural thing, and it is a natural process. The problem is that um, mass agriculture is the biggest contributor to carbon emissions, with just pumping 50,000 gallons of fuel a day just to farm some of those small farms, to run some of those machines. And I mean, you have car emissions and everything, it all kind of adds up. And the natural things we have on this earth, like the ocean, which stores carbon to protect the earth, and the rainforest, the trees, absorb carbon as well to balance out the atmosphere, but they're just being overloaded, like you said, and it's expediting the process. And then when you go burn down the rainforest, it almost works as a carbon bomb, exponentially increasing it into the atmosphere. And like you said, it eventually traps in heat. Um, I agree with you there actually as well. So having said that, like what aspect of climate change do you think will be our most difficult to face, either within our own society or worldwide? What would you think will be the toughest issue to tackle? I mean,
As far as what, like greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation?
and it can either be an aspect of climate change or the politics that will go into changing it, or what would you say is standing in our way the most to addressing a lot of these problems, or if not stopping some of these uh, instances, reversing them, hopefully,
Yeah, well, I would say honestly, mostly it's political, because in the United States we have, with a new administration that's come in, a president that doesn't necessarily support climate change and its effects that scientists refer to and have studied for years and years. So, I don't know, honestly, it's politically. I think political obstacles.
So, do you think that a lot of this